It is the responsibility of the Indiana General Assembly to create and fund a high-quality school system that serves all kids well. And the reality is that over half of our state budget goes towards K-12 education. And the question that legislators have to grapple with is, are we going to continue to fund the status quo, which has not worked for thousands of students in our state, or are we going to fund something different and unique? And are we going to actually be responsive to what our families are saying they want? So I actually don't think the legislature should be contemplating anything other than funding and creating more high-quality school options to meet the needs of Hoosiers, because that's the only way that our kids are going to be prepared for a 21st century world.
So one of the reasons why I got into the public charter school space years ago was because choice was important to me as a parent. And I remember with my own daughter looking at all the school options to decide what was best for her. And I don't believe that choice is something that only families who can afford it should have. Every family deserves a choice, and no family should have their child's education determined by their zip code. And I think it becomes so cliche, but it really is true. Every child and every family deserves the absolute best education. So if we're legislating or eliminating choice from families, we're basically saying that if you have means, you're allowed choice. If you don't have financial means, you don't. And something about that is horribly wrong.
And so it can't be based on location. It has to be based on choice. It has to be based on what's best for your kid. And then I think if people are going, these schools are meeting our needs better, these public charters are meeting my needs better, not everybody. We still know the majority of kids in Indiana are being met by traditional districts. I'm not against traditional districts. We need both and. But if we have significant portions of the population who say these charter schools are meeting my needs better, and we have a state that's saying these charter schools don't get as much money, that's a problem. That's an equity problem. It's got to be fixed.
Charter schools do not receive the traditional funding that other schools do, and I believe that if we do, I think our mission can be expanded even greater. I think if we got the transportation dollars, the building funds and things like that other schools get, I think that we can provide a better education even more so than what we do now for our students.
So we look at the state of Indiana as a whole. Again, we all recognize that we have gaps in this state, right? So there's achievement gaps that exist between low-income students and those who are not, between black and brown students and their white peers, students with disabilities, students without, right? So we have these gaps. If we're going to be successful as a state, we have to close those gaps. And the one sector that has shown promise in doing that, and a track record, are charter schools, right? And so when you look at that across the state, the idea is if we want to have more success, if we want to have a more prepared workforce, and everything that's come out from the Chamber of Commerce and others says, look, we have a talent gap between what we need and what's being produced. And if we don't capture those groups that I was talking about and get them into higher end post-secondary, get them into higher end certifications, the things that we want to do as a state from an economic standpoint won't happen. And again, charter schools are a place where we can say it is happening there. What if we had more of them?
If legislators actively support charters, it means that we would get the support that we need to make our charter schools even better. While we do a great job as charter schools, a lot of times because we wear so many hats and our funding is very limited, then we're restricted with what we can do with our autonomy.
Charter schools gave us that first hint in 2002 when the first charter schools, there were 11 of us, came on the scene. And so a charter school has a specific plan with a specific authorizer that makes them legal to operate as an independent public school. And without those, I think we would not be where we are with the creativity and the redeveloping of what education should be for Hoosier children.
That it's not just going to be one way and basically thinking in a box where this is what it is and this is all it is, to understand that how can we develop a world or a community or a generation that understands and challenges things in a positive way, but challenging to understand that we want things to be better, that we want to challenge not just to be settled with what we got in the past, but now understand like it's good right now, but how can we make things better?
We have votes. and that means something to legislators. So there's people who are so passionate about the work that we do, and there's also families that are so grateful and so supportive of what we do because of the outcomes that they've seen in their own homes, that they will go out and vote. And so legislators get in their positions because of votes, and so the charter parents, that is a base for them that they will, we could just continue to make that a mutually beneficial partnership.
I would say in the state of Indiana, supporting a great cause in education looks like being the mouthpiece and the voice for that form of education or that particular mode of education, talking to your city county counselors, to your legislators, making sure that the word is getting out to those people who need to be influenced to help things like raising state funds for education, getting teachers paid more, making sure there's more tax dollars going towards our kids' education. So it really starts at the grassroots level with our local people living in our local communities, lifting their voices up to say, hey, this is important and we need to get behind this.
There's a growing body of research and quantifiable, irrefutable evidence that shows on average charter schools outperform traditional public schools. And the reality is, because the majority of students who attend charter schools are low-income students and students of color, charter schools are serving marginalized children in our state at much higher rates than what our traditional public school system is. So the reality is that charter schools are filling a need that particularly Black, Latino, and low-income families have, and those families are choosing charter schools at exceptionally high rates. And just this year, there was a study from Stanford University that showed that Black and Latino students who attend charter schools in Indianapolis are achieving significantly more learning than their peers in school districts. In fact, for a Black student in Indianapolis who attends a charter school, they receive over 100 additional days of learning every single year relative to their peers. If you compound that over the life of a K-12 student, that is several additional years of learning that student receives because they had the opportunity to attend a high-quality charter school. And I'm hopeful that this legislative session, charter schools are going to get their fair share, and legislators are going to lean in to their vision for school choice in our state, and they're going to fund charter schools equitably, and that's what our communities and our parents and our kids deserve.